When Elon Musk received a golden invitation to a luxury yacht, he had no idea it was a trap. Rich guests spent the weekend laughing at his clothes, calling his rockets expensive toys, and treating him like a joke. The host even said Elon was invited just to be their entertainment, but 3 crew members knew something the guests didn't. When they finally spoke up to defend Elon, their shocking secrets would change everything. The biggest twist? This entire cruel weekend was planned by someone very close to Elon. But the real reason why will blow your mind. Who really organized this humiliation? And what secret truth would make this the most important weekend of Elon's life? Elon Musk was eating his breakfast when the golden envelope arrived. It was Tuesday morning in Austin, Texas, and the sun was shining through his kitchen window. He was reading emails on his phone and drinking coffee from his favorite mug when his assistant knocked on the door. "Mr. Musk," she said, holding out a thick envelope. "This came for you in the mail." Elon looked up from his phone. The envelope was different from anything he had ever seen. It was made of heavy, expensive paper that felt smooth under his fingers. The edges were lined with real gold. His name was written on the front in beautiful handwriting that looked like it came from another time. There was no return address. "That's strange," Elon said, turning the envelope over in his hands. "I wasn't expecting anything like this." He opened it carefully. Inside was an invitation written on cream-colored paper. The words were written in the same elegant handwriting as his name on the envelope. "Dear Mr. Musk, you are invited to join me for a weekend gathering aboard my yacht, Crystal Dreams. This will be a special event with other successful people who share your vision for the future. I believe this weekend will offer you a life-changing opportunity. The yacht is docked at the Sunset Marina in Miami. Please arrive Friday evening at 6 p.m. Transportation and meals will be provided. I look forward to meeting you." Sincerely, Maximilian Sterling. Elon read the invitation twice. He had never heard of Maximilian Sterling. The name sounded familiar, but he couldn't remember where he might have heard it. He pulled out his phone and searched for information about this mysterious person. The search results were confusing. There were a few articles about a tech billionaire named Maximilian Sterling, but the information was vague. Some articles said he made his money in computers. Others said he invested in space technology. There were no clear photos of him, just blurry pictures from far away. But there was one thing that caught Elon's attention. At the bottom of the invitation was a photograph of the most beautiful yacht he had ever seen. The Crystal Dreams was huge, at least 400 feet long. It had multiple decks, golden railings that sparkled in the sunlight, and large windows that showed crystal chandeliers inside. Elon stared at the photo for a long time. Something about the invitation felt wrong, but he couldn't figure out what it was. Maybe it was because he didn't know who Maximilian Sterling was. Maybe it was because the invitation was so fancy and mysterious. But the words, life-changing opportunity, kept running through his mind. Elon had built his companies by taking risks and trying new things. What if this was a chance to meet someone who could help him with his work? What if Maximilian Sterling had ideas that could help make cars better or send people to Mars? "What do you think?" he asked his assistant, showing her the invitation. She looked at it carefully. "It's very fancy," she said. "But I've never heard of this Maximilian Sterling person. Do you want me to find out more about him?" "Yes, please," Elon said. "But also, book me a flight to Miami for Friday. I think I'm going to go." His assistant looked surprised. "Are you sure? This could be some kind of trap or joke." Elon smiled. "Maybe, but it could also be amazing. I won't know unless I try." The rest of the week went by quickly. Elon's assistant found a little more information about Maximilian Sterling, but it was still confusing. Some websites said he was one of the richest people in the world. Others said he was a genius inventor. But there were no clear facts about who he really was or what he did. Friday evening came faster than Elon expected. He packed a small bag with casual clothes, his favorite black t-shirts, some jeans, and comfortable shoes. He didn't own fancy clothes like suits or expensive watches. He preferred to be comfortable. The flight to Miami was short and smooth. As the plane landed, Elon felt excited and nervous at the same time. He didn't know what to expect, but he was ready for an adventure. The taxi ride to Sunset Marina took 30 minutes through busy Miami streets. When they arrived, Elon's mouth fell open. The marina was full of expensive boats and yachts, but the Crystal Dreams was by far the biggest and most beautiful. It was even more amazing in person than in the photograph. The yacht was like a floating palace. Golden railings ran along every deck. Crystal chandeliers were visible through the huge windows. The name Crystal Dreams was written in silver letters on the side. People were already walking around on the main deck. Even from far away, Elon could see they were dressed in expensive clothes. The men wore perfect suits and shiny watches. The women wore elegant dresses and sparkling jewelry. Elon looked down at his black t-shirt and jeans. Suddenly, he felt underdressed. Maybe he should have brought nicer clothes. But it was too late now. A man in a white uniform was standing at the bottom of a golden staircase that led up to the yacht. "Mr. Musk?" he asked with a friendly smile. "Yes, that's me," Elon replied. "Welcome to Crystal Dreams. I'm Captain Rodriguez. Mr. Sterling is waiting for you on the main deck." Elon followed the captain up the golden stairs. His heart was beating fast. He was about to meet the mysterious Maximilian Sterling and find out what this weekend was really about. The main deck was even more beautiful up close. Everything was perfect, from the polished wooden floors to the comfortable white furniture. Soft music was playing, and waiters in white uniforms were serving drinks and fancy food. But something felt wrong. As Elon walked across the deck, he noticed that the other guests were looking at him strangely. Some of them recognized him and whispered to each other. Their smiles seemed fake, and their eyes were cold. A woman with perfect blonde hair and an expensive red dress looked at his clothes with disgust. She whispered something to the man next to her, and they both laughed quietly. Elon felt his face get warm. He had been to many business meetings and conferences, but this felt different. These people weren't looking at him with respect or interest. They were looking at him like he didn't belong here. "Excuse me," said a waiter, appearing beside him with a silver tray. "Would you like some champagne?" "Sure," Elon said, taking a glass. The champagne was expensive and bubbled on his tongue, but he barely tasted it. He was too busy wondering what he had gotten himself into. As the sun began to set over Miami, painting the sky orange and pink, Elon stood on the deck of the Crystal Dreams. He didn't know it yet, but this weekend would change everything he thought. He knew about himself and the people around him. The yacht's engines started with a quiet hum, and they began to move away from the marina. There was no turning back now. Elon watched the lights of Miami get smaller and smaller as they sailed into the dark ocean. The other guests were talking and laughing, but he felt alone in the crowd. He sipped his champagne and tried to look relaxed, but inside he was nervous. "Ladies and gentlemen," came a voice from the speakers around the deck. "Dinner will be served in 30 minutes in the main dining room. Please make yourselves comfortable." Elon wandered around the yacht, looking at all the beautiful things. There were paintings on the walls that looked like they belonged in museums. The furniture was made of rich, dark wood that had been polished until it shined. Everything was perfect, but it felt cold somehow. He tried to start conversations with some of the other guests, but they barely looked at him. A man in an expensive suit turned away when Elon said hello. A woman with diamond earrings pretended she didn't hear him when he asked about her business. Finally, Elon found a quiet spot near the back of the yacht and pulled out his phone. He wanted to call his assistant and ask her to pick him up, but there was no signal. They were too far from land now. "Feeling lonely?" asked a voice behind him. Elon turned around and saw a tall woman with dark hair and sharp eyes. She was wearing a black dress that probably cost more than most people's cars. Her smile was beautiful, but it didn't reach her eyes. "I'm Victoria Blackwood," she said, holding out her hand. I own several fashion companies. You must be the famous Elon Musk. Nice to meet you, Elon said, shaking her hand. Her grip was firm and cold. Victoria looked him up and down slowly. Her eyes stopped at his black t-shirt and jeans. Interesting. Choice of outfit, she said loudly. I suppose when you're that rich, you don't need to try anymore. Several other guests turned to look. They began to whisper and point. Some of them started laughing. Elon's face turned red. I just like to be comfortable, he said quietly. Comfortable, Victoria repeated, making the word sound like something dirty. How refreshing. Most people dress up when they're invited to events like this. But I guess you do things your own way. More guests gathered around them now. They were all staring at Elon like he was some kind of strange animal in a zoo. He wanted to disappear, but there was nowhere to go on the yacht. Time. For dinner, announced a waiter. Everyone moved toward the dining room. Elon followed, hoping things would get better once they sat down to eat. But as they entered the elegant dining room, he realized things were about to get much worse. The dining room was magnificent. A crystal chandelier hung from the ceiling, casting rainbow light across the room. The table was set with fine china and silver that sparkled in the light. Fresh flowers filled the air with a sweet smell. But Elon's seat was at the very end of the table, far away from everyone else. While the other guests sat close together, talking and laughing, he sat alone like he didn't belong there. The food was amazing, the kind of fancy dishes that cost hundreds of dollars at expensive restaurants. But Elon barely tasted it. He was too busy listening to the conversations around him. Did you see his clothes? Whispered a man with gray hair. I can't believe he came dressed like that. I heard his companies are having problems, said a woman with too much makeup. Maybe he can't afford nice clothes anymore. He's not as smart as people think, added another guest. My nephew could probably run Tesla better than he does. Elon pretended not to hear them, but every word felt like a punch to his stomach. These people were talking about him like he wasn't even there, like he was some kind of joke. The worst part was that he started to believe them. Maybe his clothes were wrong. Maybe he didn't belong here with these successful, important people. Maybe he really was just a fraud who had gotten lucky. As the evening went on, the comments got meaner. Someone made fun of the way he talked. Another person laughed at his hair. A man in a blue suit told a story about how Elon's rockets were expensive fireworks that don't work. Everyone laughed at that story. Everyone except Elon. Finally, the dinner ended. The guests moved back to the main deck for drinks and more conversation. But Elon had heard enough. He found a quiet corner and sat down, feeling more alone than he had in years. Not enjoying the party? Asked a deep voice. Elon looked up and saw a man walking toward him. This had to be Maximilian Sterling. He was tall and perfectly dressed in a dark suit that probably cost more than most people's cars. His hair was silver and perfectly styled. His smile was confident, but there was something cruel about his eyes. You must be Maximilian, Elon said, standing up. Thank you for inviting me. Please, call me Max, the man said. But his smile didn't get any warmer. I've heard so much about you, Elon. The man who thinks he can save the world. The way he said it made it sound like a joke. The other guests who were close enough to hear started laughing again. I just try to build things that help people, Elon said. How noble, Max said, his voice dripping with fake sweetness. Tell me, how does it feel to be surrounded by people who have actually succeeded in the real world? Elon felt like he had been slapped. What do you mean? Well, Max said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Everyone here has built businesses that actually make money. Real businesses. Not just expensive toys for rich people. The guests laughed louder now. They were all looking at Elon, waiting to see what he would say. My companies help millions of people, Elon said, his voice getting smaller. Do they? Max asked. Or do they just make you feel important? Elon didn't know what to say. His mouth felt dry and his hands were shaking. These people didn't respect him. They didn't care about his work or his dreams. They just wanted to make him feel small and stupid. "I think I'll go to my room," Elon said quietly. "Good idea," Max said with a cold smile. "You look tired. We have a big day planned for tomorrow." As Elon walked away, he could hear the guests laughing behind him. Someone said something about "poor little Elon," and everyone laughed even harder. Elon found his cabin and closed the door behind him. He sat on the bed and put his head in his hands. For the first time in years, he felt like crying. Outside his window, the ocean stretched out in all directions. They were miles from land now, trapped on this beautiful yacht with these cruel people. And tomorrow, Max had said, would be even worse. Elon barely slept that night. Every time he closed his eyes, he heard the guests laughing at him. He kept thinking about Victoria's mean comments and Max's cold smile. By morning, he felt tired and sick to his stomach. A knock on his door woke him up at 7 o'clock. "Mr. Musk?" called a voice. "Breakfast is ready on the main deck." Elon wanted to stay in his room all day, but he knew he had to face them eventually. He put on another black t-shirt and jeans, brushed his teeth, and walked slowly to the main deck. The other guests were already eating breakfast at small tables around the deck. They looked fresh and happy, like they had slept perfectly. When they saw Elon, some of them whispered to each other and smiled mean smiles. Elon got some food from the breakfast table and sat down alone. The food looked delicious, but he couldn't taste anything. His stomach was too upset from worrying about what Max had planned for today. "Good morning, everyone," Max's voice boomed across the deck. He was standing near the center, wearing another perfect suit. He looked like he owned the world. All the guests stopped talking and turned to look at him. Elon felt his heart start beating faster. "I hope you all slept well," Max continued with his fake smile. "Today, we're going to have some fun. I've planned a special competition for all of us." The guests clapped their hands and looked excited. Elon felt scared. "It's a series of challenges," Max explained. "We'll test intelligence, creativity, and leadership. The winner gets a prize of $1 million. Everyone gasped and started talking excitedly. $1 million was a lot of money, even for rich people. "The first challenge," Max said, "is about business strategy. Each person will get a business problem to solve. You'll have 1 hour to come up with the best solution." A man in a white uniform brought out folders for each guest. Elon opened his folder and started reading. The problem was about running a car company, but something felt wrong. The information was confusing and incomplete. Important numbers were missing, and some of the facts didn't make sense. Elon looked around at the other guests. They were all reading their folders and taking notes. They looked confident and happy, like their problems were easy to understand. "Excuse me," Elon said, raising his hand. "I think there might be a mistake in my folder. Some of the information is missing." Max walked over with his cold smile. "Let me see," he said, looking at Elon's folder. "This looks correct to me. Maybe you're just not understanding it properly." The other guests laughed quietly. Elon's face turned red. He knew something was wrong, but he couldn't prove it. For the next hour, Elon tried his best to solve the problem with the incomplete information. Meanwhile, the other guests seemed to be having no trouble at all. When time was up, each person had to present their solution. The other guests gave smart, detailed answers that impressed everyone. When it was Elon's turn, his answer sounded confused and incomplete because he didn't have all the facts. "Interesting," Max said with a mean smile. "I expected more from someone who runs car companies." The guests laughed, and Elon felt his face burn with shame. The second challenge was about creativity. Each person had to design something new and useful. But when Elon started presenting his ideas, the other guests interrupted him. "That's impossible," said Victoria, rolling her eyes. "We tried that years ago. It doesn't work," added a man with a gray beard. "Are you sure you understand the science?" asked a woman in a blue dress. Every idea Elon presented was shot down or mocked. Meanwhile, when other guests presented their ideas, everyone nodded and said how brilliant they were. The third challenge was supposed to test leadership. Max divided everyone into teams, and each team had to work together to solve a problem. Elon was put on a team with 3 other people, but from the beginning, his teammates ignored everything he said. When he suggested a plan, they said it was stupid. When he tried to organize the work, they did the opposite of what he asked. It was like they were trying to make him fail. "This is sabotage," Elon said quietly to one of his teammates. "Maybe you're just not a good leader," the man replied with a smirk. By lunchtime, Elon had lost every single challenge. He felt humiliated and angry. These games weren't fair, but he couldn't prove it. Everyone else seemed to be having a wonderful time while he looked like a fool. Lunch was served on the upper deck under a bright blue sky. The food was beautiful, but Elon had no appetite. He sat alone again while the other guests celebrated their victories. Then Max stood up with a glass of champagne in his hand. "I'd like to make a toast," he announced. Everyone got quiet and raised their glasses. "To our entertainment," Max said with a cruel smile. Elon didn't understand what he meant, but he had a bad feeling in his stomach. "You see," Max continued, "I invited all of you here for a special reason. Most of you are here because you're successful and interesting people, but one of you is here for a different reason." Max's eyes found Elon across the deck. "One of you is here as our main attraction, our entertainment for the weekend." Elon felt like the world was spinning around him. He couldn't breathe properly. "I wanted to see what would happen," Max went on, "if we took the famous Elon Musk and treated him like a normal person. No special treatment. No people pretending he's amazing just because he's rich." The guests were all staring at Elon now. Some looked amused. Others looked uncomfortable. "Turns out," Max said, his voice full of fake kindness, "you're just as pathetic as everyone else when you're not surrounded by people who have to pretend you're special." The guests began to clap. Some of them were laughing. Elon felt like he might throw up. "So thank you, Elon," Max said, raising his glass higher. "Thank you for showing us that underneath all the money and fame, you're really just an awkward, stuttering man who doesn't know how to dress or talk to people." The applause got louder. Elon stood up so fast that his chair fell over. His hands were shaking, and his face was hot with anger and shame. "You're sick," he said, his voice cracking. "All of you, are we?" Max asked with a laugh. "Or are we just honest? For once in your life, people are telling you the truth instead of lying to make you feel better." Elon wanted to say something back, something that would make them all feel as small and hurt as he did, but no words came out. He just stood there while everyone stared at him and laughed. Finally, he turned and ran toward his cabin. Behind him, he could hear Max's voice calling out, "Don't worry, Elon, we have even more fun planned for tomorrow." Elon slammed his cabin door and locked it. He sat on his bed and put his head in his hands. For a moment, he thought about jumping overboard and swimming back to Miami, but they were too far from land now. He was trapped. He tried to sleep, but every time he closed his eyes, he heard the guests laughing at him. He kept thinking about Max's cruel words. Maybe they were right. Maybe he really was just a pathetic, awkward man who didn't deserve respect. Hours passed slowly. The yacht rocked gently on the ocean waves, but Elon couldn't relax. His stomach hurt, and his head was pounding. He had never felt so alone in his life. Around midnight, he heard something that made him sit up. It was the sound of people talking, quietly somewhere on the yacht. But the guests had all gone to bed hours ago. Who could be awake at this time? Elon opened his cabin door and looked out into the hallway. It was dark and quiet. He stepped out carefully, trying not to make any noise. The voices were coming from somewhere below. He found a staircase that led down to the lower levels of the yacht. These were areas he hadn't seen before, the parts where the crew worked. The voices were getting louder as he walked down the stairs. The first person he saw was a woman in a white chef's uniform. She was standing in a huge kitchen, cleaning dishes and putting food away. Even though it was very late, she was working hard to make sure everything was perfect. She looked up when she saw Elon and smiled. It was the first genuine, kind smile he had seen all weekend. "Oh, hello," she said in a warm voice with a slight accent. "You must be one of the guests. I'm Rosa, the head chef. Are you feeling all right? You look upset." Elon was surprised. This woman didn't know who he was, but she was being nice to him anyway. It felt strange after the cruel treatment from the guests upstairs. "I'm okay," he said quietly. "I just couldn't sleep." "Ah," Rosa said, nodding like she understood. "Sometimes the ocean makes it hard to sleep when you're not used to it." "Would you like some warm milk? I was just making some for myself." Elon hadn't had warm milk since he was a little boy. His mother used to make it for him when he had bad dreams. "That sounds nice," he said. Rosa heated up some milk and added a little honey. She also brought out a plate of homemade cookies that smelled like vanilla and butter. They sat at a small table in the corner of the kitchen. "So what do you do?" Rosa asked, taking a sip of her milk. "I build cars and rockets," Elon said simply. "That sounds amazing," Rosa said, and she really seemed to mean it. "I've always thought people who build things are special. Me, I just cook food. But you create things that help people travel and explore." Elon felt tears starting to form in his eyes. When was the last time someone had said something so kind to him? "Cooking is important too," he said. "Food brings people together. It makes them happy." Rosa smiled brightly. "That's exactly why I love it. I became a chef because I wanted to make people feel good." They talked for a while about cooking and building things. Rosa told him about her family in Spain and how she came to work on yachts to support her sick mother. She was kind and smart, and she made Elon feel like a real person again. "I should let you get some sleep," Rosa finally said. "But if you can't sleep again, come back down. I'm usually here." Elon thanked her and started to leave, but he heard voices coming from another room. He followed the sound and found himself in the engine room of the yacht. A man in blue work clothes was bent over a complex machine, using tools to fix something. Computer screens showed numbers and charts that most people wouldn't understand. But Elon could see right away that this man was brilliant. "Excuse me," Elon said softly. The man looked up. He was young, maybe 30 years old, with kind eyes and strong hands covered in oil from the machines. "Oh, hi," the man said. "I'm Marcus, the chief engineer. Sorry about the noise. I'm trying to fix the navigation system before morning." Elon looked at the machine Marcus was working on. It was incredibly complex, with hundreds of wires and computer chips. "What's wrong with it?" he asked. Marcus explained the problem. It was a difficult technical issue that would stump most engineers. But as he talked, Elon could see that Marcus understood the problem perfectly. He was solving it in a way that was both smart and creative. "That's brilliant," Elon said. "I never would have thought of that solution." Marcus looked surprised. "Really? You understand this stuff?" "A little," Elon said. "I work with machines and computers sometimes." For the next hour, they talked about engineering and technology. Marcus showed Elon some inventions he had created to make the yacht run better. They were simple but genius ideas that could help ships all over the world. "Have you ever tried to get patents for these?" Elon asked. Marcus laughed sadly. "Who would listen to me? I never went to college. I learned everything by working with my hands and reading books. Important people don't care about ideas from people like me." Elon felt angry, but not at Marcus. He was angry at a world that ignored brilliant people just because they didn't have the right education or background. As he was leaving the engine room, Elon heard typing sounds coming from another room. He followed the noise and found a young woman sitting in front of multiple computer screens. She was writing code that moved across the screens faster than most people could read. "Hi," she said without looking away from her work. I'm Elena. I manage all the technology on the yacht. Elon watched her work for a few minutes. She was creating a program that would help the yacht communicate with other ships and weather stations. It was incredibly advanced, better than systems that big. Companies spent millions of dollars to develop. This is amazing, Elon said. Where did you learn to do this? Elena finally turned around. She was young, maybe 25, with bright eyes and a confident smile. I taught myself, she said. I started coding when I was 12 because I was bored. I've been working on boats for 3 years now. Companies would pay millions for this kind of technology, Elon said. Elena's smile faded. I know. But every time I try to talk to tech companies, they see a young woman with no college degree, and they don't take me seriously. So I just keep working on boats and dreaming about bigger things. Elon spent another hour talking with Elena about computers and technology. She had ideas that could change how people communicate around the world. But like Marcus, she felt invisible to the people who could help her dreams come true. As the sun started to rise, Elon finally went back to his cabin. But he couldn't stop thinking about Rosa, Marcus, and Elena. These 3 people were working below deck while the cruel guests slept above. They were kind, brilliant, and hard-working. They were everything the guests upstairs pretended to be, but weren't. Rosa was taking care of everyone with her cooking and kindness. Marcus was keeping the yacht safe with his engineering genius. Elena was connecting them to the world with her amazing technology. The most extraordinary people on this yacht weren't the wealthy guests who had spent the weekend making him feel worthless. They were the crew members who worked quietly in the background, making everything possible. For the first time since he had arrived on the yacht, Elon felt hopeful. Maybe the cruel guests upstairs were wrong about him. Maybe there were still good people in the world who valued kindness and hard work over money and status. As he finally fell asleep, Elon was already thinking about how he could help Rosa, Marcus, and Elena. They had helped him remember who he really was. Now he wanted to help them achieve their dreams. Elon woke up Monday morning feeling different. The sun was shining through his cabin window, and for the first time all weekend he felt strong. Meeting the crew had reminded him that there were still good people in the world. People who cared about helping others instead of tearing them down. He got dressed and walked to the main deck for breakfast. The cruel guests were already there, talking and laughing like nothing had happened. When they saw Elon, some of them whispered and pointed. But this time, their mean looks didn't hurt as much. "Good morning, Elon," Max said with his fake smile. "I hope you slept well. Today is our last day together, and I have something very special planned." Elon's stomach tightened, but he tried to look calm. "What do you have in mind?" "A trial," Max announced loudly so everyone could hear. "A mock trial where you must defend your life's work. All of us will be the judges." The guests clapped their hands and looked excited. They were ready for one more chance to hurt him. "You'll have to explain why your companies deserve to exist," Max continued. "Why the world needs electric cars and space rockets. Convince us that you're not just wasting everyone's time and money." Elon knew this was another cruel game, but he had no choice. "Fine," he said quietly. They set up chairs in a circle on the main deck. Elon had to stand in the middle while all the guests sat around him like judges in a courtroom. Max stood behind him, acting like a prosecutor. "Let's start with Tesla," Max said. "Your electric car company. Tell us, why should anyone buy an expensive electric car when gas cars work perfectly fine?" "Electric cars are better for the environment," Elon began. "They don't pollute the air and they use clean energy." "Clean energy?" laughed Victoria. "The electricity still comes from power plants that burn coal. You're not saving anything." "That's not true everywhere," Elon said, but his voice was getting smaller. "Solar power and wind power are growing. Slowly," said a man with gray hair. "Too slowly to matter. Your cars are just expensive toys for rich people who want to feel good about themselves." The guests laughed and nodded. Elon felt his confidence slipping away. "What about SpaceX?" Max asked. "Why waste billions of dollars shooting rockets into space when people on Earth are hungry and homeless?" "Space exploration helps everyone," Elon said. "We learn new things that improve life on Earth. We develop new technologies." "Like what?" demanded a woman in a blue dress. "Name one thing that space travel has done for regular people." Elon tried to think of examples, but the guests kept interrupting him. Every time he started to explain something, they would laugh or say he was wrong. They brought up every failure, every mistake, every time his companies had struggled. "Your rockets blow up," someone called out. "Your cars catch fire," said another. "You promise things you couldn't deliver," added a third. Each comment felt like a punch. Elon's hands started shaking. Maybe they were right. Maybe he really was just a fraud who had fooled everyone into thinking he was special. "And what about you personally?" Max asked, walking around Elon like a shark. "You're awkward and strange. You can't talk to people normally. You stutter when you're nervous. How can someone like you be a leader?" The guests were all staring at him, waiting for him to break down. Elon felt tears starting to form in his eyes. He was about to give up when something unexpected happened. "Excuse me," came a clear, strong voice from the edge of the deck. Everyone turned to look. Rosa, Marcus, and Elena were standing there in their work uniforms. They weren't supposed to be on the main deck during guest activities. "Get back to work." "Immediately!" Max shouted, his face turning red with anger. But Rosa stepped forward, her chin held high. "We have something to say." "You have nothing to say," Max snapped. "You're crew members. Stay below deck where you belong." "No," Marcus said firmly, walking up to stand next to Rosa. "We know who you are, Mr. Musk, and we know what these people are doing to you." Elena joined them. "What they're doing is wrong. The guests looked shocked. Crew members never talked back to passengers, especially not rich, important passengers. "You've helped more people than any of them ever will," Rosa said, looking directly at Elon. "And we can prove it." Max looked furious. "Security," he called out. "Remove these people immediately." But the security guards didn't move. They were looking at Rosa, Marcus, and Elena with respect, not anger. "Let them speak," said one of the security guards. "We want to hear what they have to say." Rosa took a deep breath and began to tell her story. "My mother was dying of cancer 2 years ago. The treatments she needed cost more money than our family had. We wrote letters to everyone we could think of, asking for help." Her voice was shaking, but she continued. "One day, we got a call. Someone had read our letter and wanted to pay for everything. The surgery, the medicine, the hospital bills, everything." She looked at Elon with tears in her eyes. "It was your foundation, Mr. Musk. You saved my mother's life." The guests were silent now. Some of them looked uncomfortable. Marcus stepped forward. "My son wanted to be an engineer, but we couldn't afford college. He was going to give up his dreams and work in a factory. Then SpaceX started a scholarship program for kids who love science but don't have money." His voice got stronger as he continued. "My boy is in his second year of engineering school now. He's studying rocket design because you showed him that big dreams are possible. He wants to help send people to Mars someday." Elena was the last to speak. "My little sister lives in a small town where the air was so polluted that kids couldn't play outside. Then Tesla built a factory nearby and started hiring local people. The whole town switched to clean energy." She smiled through her tears. "My sister sent me a picture last week. She was playing soccer outside for the first time in years because the air is finally clean." The 3 crew members stood together, facing the silent guests. "You can make fun of Mr. Musk all you want," Rosa said. "But we know the truth. He's helped our families in ways you can't understand. Your fancy clothes and expensive jewelry don't make you better than him," Marcus added. "Your cruel words don't change the fact that he's actually making the world better. While you sit around being mean to people," Elena finished, "he's out there solving real problems for real families like ours." The deck was completely quiet except for the sound of ocean waves. The guests didn't know what to say. For the first time all weekend, they looked ashamed of themselves. Max's face was bright red with anger and embarrassment. "This changes nothing," he said through gritted teeth. But everyone could see that it changed everything. The crew members had shown the guests something they had forgotten, that success isn't about having the most money or the nicest things. It's about helping other people and making their lives better. Elon looked at Rosa, Marcus, and Elena standing there so brave and strong. They had risked their jobs to defend him. They had shared their most personal stories to show everyone the truth. For the first time all weekend, Elon stood up straight and smiled. "Thank you," he said to Rosa, Marcus, and Elena. His voice was strong and clear now. "Thank you for reminding me why I do this work." Max's face was getting redder by the minute. "Get back to your jobs," he shouted at the crew members. "All of you, right now!" But Rosa shook her head. "No, we're not leaving. You'll be fired," Max threatened. "All three of you will never work on another yacht again." "Then so be it," Marcus said calmly. "Some things are more important than jobs." Elena nodded. "We won't let you hurt a good man just because you're jealous of him." The other guests were looking very uncomfortable now. Some of them were staring at their feet. Others were whispering quietly to each other. A few looked like they wanted to apologize to Elon, but they didn't know how. Max was furious. "This is my yacht. I make the rules here." "Actually," said Captain Rodriguez, appearing suddenly on the deck, "this is my yacht while we're at sea, and I decide what happens here." Max spun around to face the captain. "You work for me. Do as I say." Captain Rodriguez was a calm, serious man who had been sailing for 30 years. He looked at Max with steady eyes. "I work for the safety and dignity of everyone on this yacht. And what you're doing is neither safe nor dignified. You can't." "Talk to me like that," Max screamed. But before anyone could say another word, the yacht suddenly rocked hard to one side. Everyone grabbed onto whatever they could find to keep from falling. "What was that?" asked Victoria, looking scared for the first time all weekend. Captain Rodriguez was already looking at his phone and radio. "Storm coming in fast," he said with concern in his voice. This wasn't in the weather report. The sky, which had been bright blue just minutes ago, was turning dark gray. Big black clouds were rolling in from the west, and the wind was getting stronger. "How bad is it?" asked one of the guests nervously. "Bad enough," the captain replied. "Everyone needs to go inside immediately." But as they tried to move toward the indoor areas of the yacht, another huge wave hit them. This time, several guests fell down. The yacht was rocking back and forth like a toy boat in a bathtub. "The navigation system!" Marcus shouted over the growing wind. "It's been acting up since yesterday. If it fails completely in this storm, we could be in real trouble." "What do you mean, trouble?" Max demanded, but his voice was shaking with fear now. "We won't know where we are or which way to go," Elena explained. "In a storm like this, that could be very dangerous." Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by a loud crack of thunder. The rain started falling in heavy drops that stung when they hit. "Everyone inside," Captain Rodriguez ordered. "Now!" The guests scrambled toward the doors, pushing and shoving each other in their panic. Max, who had seemed so confident and in control all weekend, was now pale and shaking. But Elon didn't run. He stayed on the deck with Rosa, Marcus, and Elena. "What can I do to help?" he asked Captain Rodriguez. "You should go inside with the others," the captain said. "This could get dangerous." "I'm not leaving," Elon said firmly. "If there's a problem, I want to help fix it." Marcus was already heading toward the engine room. "The navigation system is acting up, but I think I can fix it if I have help." "I'll come with you," Elon said. Elena was checking her computer equipment. "The communication systems are having problems too. The storm is interfering with our signals." "Show me what you need," Elon said to her. While the wealthy guests huddled inside, scared and helpless, Elon and the crew went to work. They split up to tackle the different problems the storm was causing. In the engine room, Elon and Marcus worked side by side to fix the navigation system. The yacht was rocking so hard that they could barely stand, but they didn't give up. Marcus showed Elon which wires to hold while he soldered connections. Elon used his engineering knowledge to suggest solutions Marcus hadn't thought of. Try rerouting the power through the backup system, Elon suggested during a particularly difficult moment. That's brilliant, Marcus said. I never would have thought of that. Meanwhile, up in the communication room, Elena was fighting to keep their radio and GPS working. The storm was causing electrical interference that was blocking their signals. She needed someone to hold equipment steady while she made delicate adjustments. Rosa had left the kitchen and was helping wherever she could. She brought water and sandwiches to keep everyone's energy up. More importantly, she kept everyone calm with her steady presence and encouraging words. "We can do this," she kept saying. "We're a good team." Down in the guest areas, the wealthy visitors were panicking. Some were crying. Others were arguing about whose fault it was. Victoria was shouting at someone to call for help, but the phones weren't working. Max was pacing back and forth, looking lost and scared. But up on deck and in the engine room, Elon and the crew were working together like they had known each other for years. Elon's experience with complex engineering problems was exactly what they needed. The crew's practical knowledge of how the yacht worked was exactly what Elon needed. "Power's back to the navigation system," Marcus called out after 2 hours of hard work. "Communication systems are working again too," Elena reported from upstairs. Captain Rodriguez, who had been steering the yacht through the worst of the storm, finally smiled. "Good work, everyone. I think we're going to be okay." As the storm began to pass, the guests slowly came back up to the main deck. They looked embarrassed and ashamed. While they had been hiding and panicking, Elon and the crew had saved everyone. "How did you fix everything so fast?" asked one of the guests quietly. "We worked together," Elon said simply. "That's how you solve big problems. You don't do it alone." The guests looked at each other uncomfortably. They were beginning to understand something important. All weekend, they had been trying to make Elon feel small and worthless. But when real danger came, he was the one who stepped up to help. He was the one who stayed calm and focused on solving problems instead of pointing fingers or hiding in fear. Max was standing by himself near the fosse. Back of the deck. He looked smaller somehow, like the storm had blown away all his fake confidence. He was staring at Elon with an expression that was hard to read. The sun was starting to come out again, painting the sky in beautiful colors. The ocean was becoming calm and peaceful. But everyone on the yacht knew that something had changed forever. For the first time, the guests were seeing Elon for who he really was. Not an awkward, stuttering man who didn't belong, but a leader who stayed calm under pressure and cared more about helping others than protecting himself. And Elon was seeing himself clearly too. The storm had washed away all the doubt and shame that Max and the guests had piled on him. He remembered now why he built companies and tried to solve big problems. It wasn't for fame or money. It was for moments like this, when he could use his skills to help people who needed him. As the yacht headed back toward Miami, the mood on deck was very different from when they had left. The guests were quiet and thoughtful. Some of them tried to apologize to Elon, but their words felt empty after everything that had happened. "I'm sorry we treated you so badly," said Victoria quietly. She looked embarrassed and couldn't meet his eyes. "We were wrong about you," added the man with gray hair. "You're not what we thought." Elon accepted their apologies politely, but he wasn't really thinking about them anymore. He was watching Max, who had disappeared into his private cabin as soon as the storm ended. Something about Max's behavior during the crisis had been bothering Elon, and he couldn't figure out what it was. While the other guests talked quietly among themselves, Elon thought back over the whole weekend. Max had seemed so confident and in control when they first met. He had acted like he owned the world and everyone in it. But during the storm, he had fallen apart completely. Most successful business people Elon knew stayed calm during emergencies. They were used to handling pressure and making quick decisions. But Max had panicked like someone who had never faced a real crisis before. There was something else too. During the weekend, Max had made several comments about Elon's companies that weren't quite right. He had gotten basic facts wrong about Tesla and SpaceX. A real tech billionaire would know those details. Elon excused himself from the other guests and walked toward Max's cabin. He knocked on the door gently. "Go away," came Max's voice from inside. He sounded tired and defeated. "It's Elon. I think we need to talk." There was a long pause. Then the door opened slowly. Max stood there looking completely different from the confident man Elon had met on Friday night. His perfect hair was messy. His expensive suit was wrinkled. His eyes were red like he had been crying. "What do you want?" Max asked quietly. "I want to know who you really are," Elon said. Max's face went pale. "I don't know what you mean." "Yes, you do," Elon said gently. "You're not really Maximilian Sterling, are you?" Max stared at him for a long moment. Then his shoulders sagged, like all the air had gone out of him. He stepped aside to let Elon into the cabin. The cabin was a mess. Papers were scattered everywhere. Empty bottles and dirty clothes were thrown around the room. It looked like Max hadn't slept or cleaned up in days. "You figured it out," Max said, sitting heavily on his bed. "I was wondering when someone would." "Who? Are you really?" Elon asked, sitting down across from him. Max was quiet for a long time. When he finally spoke, his voice was barely above a whisper. "My real name is Maxwell Steinberg. I used to run a company called Steinberg Industries." Elon had never heard of it, but he stayed quiet and let Max continue. 5 years ago, I thought I was going to be the next Elon Musk," Max said with a bitter laugh. "I had big dreams and bigger plans. I was going to build electric cars that were better than Tesla. I was going to start a space company that would beat SpaceX." His voice got sadder as he continued. "I raised millions of dollars from investors. I hired hundreds of employees. I made promises about what we could do." "What happened?" Elon asked gently. "I failed," Max said simply. "My cars didn't work properly. My rockets exploded. My technology wasn't good enough. One by one, my investors left me for your companies instead." Tears started running down Max's face. "I lost everything. My company went bankrupt. My employees lost their jobs. My wife left me because I couldn't stop talking about you and how much I hated you." Elon felt a shock go through him. "You hated me?" "I blamed you for everything," Maxie admitted. "I told myself that if you didn't exist, my company would have succeeded. If Tesla and SpaceX weren't there, investors would have chosen me instead." Max stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the ocean. "I spent 3 years obsessing over you, reading every article about your companies, watching every interview, learning everything about your life. That's why you knew so much about me this weekend," Elon realized. "I wanted to hurt you the way I thought you had hurt me," Max continued. "I wanted to make you feel as small and worthless as I felt. So I came up with this plan." Max turned around to face Elon. "The yacht doesn't belong to me. I rented it with money I borrowed from dangerous people. The guests aren't my friends. I paid some of them to come and be mean to you. Others just came because they wanted to see a billionaire get humiliated." Elon felt sick to his stomach. "You spent all that money just to hurt me?" "I thought it would make me feel better," Max said, crying harder now. "I thought if I could prove that you were just as pathetic as everyone else, somehow it would fix my life." "But it didn't work, did it?" Elon asked. Max shook his head. "When the storm hit and you started helping everyone, I realized something terrible. You're not the villain I made you out to be in my head. You're just a person trying to do good work. And I'm the villain in this story." He sat back down on the bed and put his head in his hands. I destroyed my own life with jealousy and hatred. I blamed you for my failures instead of learning from my mistakes. I became the kind of person I used to hate. The cabin was quiet, except for the sound of Max crying. Elon didn't know what to say. He had never met someone who hated him so much, but now he just felt sorry for this broken man. You ruined everything, Max whispered. But not the way I thought. You didn't ruin my company or my marriage. I did that myself. You ruined my hatred. This weekend was supposed to prove that you were a fraud. Instead, it proved that you're exactly what people say you are. A good person who cares about helping others. Max looked up at Elon with desperate eyes. I owe more money than I can ever pay back. The people I borrowed from to rent this yacht are going to be very angry when I can't repay them. I have no job, no family, no future. I threw away everything for a stupid plan that only made me feel worse about myself. Elon stared at this man who had spent the weekend trying to destroy him. Maxwell Steinberg had lost everything because he couldn't handle failure. He had let jealousy and hatred consume his life until there was nothing left. But instead of feeling angry or satisfied, Elon felt something unexpected: compassion. I never wanted to hurt you, Elon said quietly. I didn't even know you existed. I was just trying to build things that help people. I know that now, Max said. That's what makes this so much worse. I wasted years hating someone who never did anything to me. Elon was quiet for a long time, thinking. Finally, he made a decision that surprised even himself. What if I told you it's not too late, he said. Max looked up with confusion in his eyes. What do you mean? What if I told you that failure doesn't have to be the end of your story? That you could still do something meaningful with your life? Max stared at him like he couldn't believe what he was hearing. After everything I did to you this weekend, you would help me? Elon smiled sadly. Someone once told me that the best way to deal with your enemies is to turn them into friends. Outside the cabin window, the lights of Miami were getting closer. Soon they would be back on land, and this strange weekend would be over. But Elon had a feeling that for both him and Maxwell Steinberg, the real story was just beginning. As the yacht pulled into the marina, Elon made a decision that would surprise everyone, including himself. Instead of walking away and forgetting about this terrible weekend, he was going to do something that no one expected. The guests were gathering their bags and saying awkward goodbyes. Most of them still looked embarrassed about how they had treated Elon. A few tried to give him their business cards, hoping he might forgive them and work with them someday. But Elon wasn't thinking about the guests anymore. He was thinking about 4 people: Maxwell, Rosa, Marcus, and Elena. The weekend had shown him something important about each of them. Maxwell had organized the entire weekend perfectly. He had coordinated with dozens of people, planned every detail, and almost pulled off an incredibly complex plan. That took real skill and intelligence. He was brilliant, just like Elon had always been, but he had used his talents for the wrong reasons. Rosa had taken care of everyone with kindness and wisdom. She had worked harder than anyone else and never complained. She understood what people needed and how to make them feel better. Marcus was a genius with machines and engineering. His solutions during the storm had been creative and effective. He could solve problems that would stump most college-educated engineers. Elena was a computer wizard who could create technology that big companies would pay millions for. Her ideas were original and powerful. All 4 of these people had incredible talents, but they were stuck. Maxwell was destroyed by his own hatred. Rosa, Marcus, and Elena were overlooked because they didn't have the right backgrounds or connections. As they walked down the golden stairs from the yacht to the dock, Elon caught up with Maxwell, who was walking slowly behind everyone else. Maxwell, Elon said quietly, I want to offer you something. Maxwell stopped and looked at him with tired eyes. What could you possibly offer me? I'm broke, remember? A job, Elon said simply. Maxwell stared at him like he hadn't heard correctly. What? I want to hire you, Elon repeated. And Rosa, Marcus, and Elena too. Are you insane? Maxwell asked. After everything I did to you this weekend, I tried to destroy you. I know, Elon said calmly. But you're also incredibly talented. You planned and executed one of the most complex schemes I've ever seen. You got dozens of people to cooperate with your plan. You rented a yacht, organized events, and managed every detail perfectly. Maxwell looked confused. So imagine what you could accomplish if you used those same skills to help people instead of hurt them, Elon explained. I could use someone with your organizational abilities. They had reached the parking lot now. Rosa, Marcus, and Elena were standing together, looking sad that their weekend of working together was over. What about them? Maxwell asked. Elon smiled. I've been thinking about starting a new kind of company. Something different from Tesla or SpaceX. A company that finds brilliant people who have been overlooked by the traditional system. He gestured toward the 3 crew members. Rosa could lead a program that provides healthy, affordable food to workers everywhere. Marcus could head a team developing new transportation technologies for people who can't afford expensive cars. Elena could run a division focused on creating communication systems that connect people around the world. Maxwell was listening now, really listening. And what would I do? You would use your skills to find more people like them, Elon said. Talented individuals who just need someone to believe in them. You know what it feels like to be rejected and ignored. You could help others avoid the same pain. Elon paused and looked Maxwell in the eyes. This weekend, you showed me that there are brilliant people everywhere who don't get the chances they deserve. You also showed me that failure doesn't have to destroy someone. It can teach them how to help others succeed. Maxwell was quiet for a long time. Finally, he said, "Why would you trust me? I spent 3 years hating you. I tried to humiliate you in front of everyone." Because, Elon said, I think you learned something important this weekend. You saw what hatred and jealousy did to your life. I don't think you want to make that mistake again. Just then, Rosa, Marcus, and Elena walked over to them. Mr. Musk, Rosa said shyly, we wanted to thank you for everything you did during the storm. You didn't have to help us, Marcus added, but you stayed and worked with us like we were equals. That meant more to us than you know, Elena finished. Elon looked at the 3 of them. How would you feel about working together permanently? Their faces lit up with surprise and excitement as Elon explained his idea for the new company. Rosa started crying happy tears when she realized she could help feed people around the world. Marcus got so excited about the transportation projects that he started sketching ideas on a napkin. Elena began talking rapidly about communication systems that could help students in poor countries learn from the best teachers anywhere. What about Maxwell? Rosa asked, looking at the man who had been their boss all weekend. I think Maxwell could be very helpful, Elon said carefully, if he wants to change his life and help people instead of hurting them. Maxwell looked at all of them. These people had every reason to hate him. He had made their weekend difficult and stressful, but they were looking at him with kindness and hope. I don't deserve this, Maxwell said quietly. None of us deserve the chances we get, Elon replied. We just have to make the most of them. Some of the other guests had overheard their conversation. Victoria walked over looking thoughtful. This new company of yours, she said to Elon. Would you be looking for investors? Before Elon could answer, the man with gray hair joined them. I'd like to invest too. After this weekend, I want to be part of something that actually helps people. More guests gathered around them. One by one, they offered to support the new venture. Some wanted to invest money. Others offered to change how their own companies operated, focusing more on helping employees and communities. "What would you call this new company?" Elena asked. Elon thought for a moment. "Hidden potential," he said, "because that's what we're looking for. The hidden potential in people who just need someone to believe in them." As the sun set over Miami, an amazing thing happened. The weekend that had started with cruelty and hatred was ending with hope and new beginnings. The guests who had come to watch Elon be humiliated were now eager to support his new mission. Maxwell stood in the middle of it all, watching people get excited about helping others. For 3 years, he had focused all his energy on destroying one person. Now he had a chance to spend his energy building up hundreds of people. "When do we start?" he asked Elon. "Tomorrow," Elon replied with a smile. "We start tomorrow." Rosa, Marcus, and Elena looked at each other and grinned. They had started the weekend as overlooked crew members. They were ending it as partners in a company that could change the world. And Maxwell, who had started the weekend as a bitter, angry man consumed by hatred, was ending it with a chance to rebuild his life by helping others rebuild theirs. As they all walked toward their cars, Elon realized something important. The weekend had been designed to humiliate him and make him question his worth. Instead, it had reminded him of what really mattered: finding good people and helping them succeed. Sometimes the worst experiences in life lead to the best opportunities. Sometimes the people who try to hurt us end up teaching us the most important lessons. And sometimes, offering forgiveness and second chances can change everyone's life for the better. 6 months after that life-changing weekend on the yacht, Elon was sitting in his new office in Austin, Texas. The walls were covered with pictures and letters from people around the world. Children's drawings of rockets and cars, thank you notes from families, photos of workers smiling at new jobs. Hidden potential had become more successful than anyone had imagined. Rosa's food program was now being used by companies in 15 different countries. She had figured out how to provide healthy, delicious meals to workers for less money than fast food. Factories, offices, and schools were all asking for her help. Workers were healthier and happier, and Rosa was training other chefs to spread the program even further. "Mr. Musk," Rosa had told him just last week, "my mother says you saved her life twice. Once with the medical treatment, and once by giving me this chance to help people." Marcus's transportation team had created 3 new inventions that were changing how people traveled. They had designed a new kind of bus that used clean energy and cost half as much to operate as regular buses. They had built bicycle systems that helped people in small towns get to work easily. And they were working on a delivery system that would bring supplies to places that were hard to reach. "The best part," Marcus had explained to Elon, "is that my son calls me every day to tell me about his engineering classes. He says his professors are impressed when he talks about our projects." Elena's communication division had connected over 1 million people to better internet and phone service. She had created systems that worked even in places where regular technology failed. Students in remote villages could now video chat with teachers in big cities. Families separated by distance could talk to each other every day. "I used to dream about changing the world with technology," Elena had told Elon. "Now I'm actually doing it." But the biggest change was in Maxwell. The angry, bitter man from the yacht had completely transformed into someone Elon barely recognized. Maxwell had become one of the best talent scouts in the world. He traveled everywhere, looking for people with hidden abilities who needed a chance. In the past 6 months, Maxwell had found a janitor in Detroit who had invented a new way to clean up pollution. He had discovered a waitress in rural Montana who had ideas for helping elderly people stay healthy. He had met a taxi driver in Phoenix who had designed a better way to grow food in desert areas. "Every person I find," Maxwell had explained to Elon, "reminds me of who I used to be. Someone with big dreams who just needed someone to believe in them." Maxwell had also done something that surprised everyone. He had bought the yacht Crystal Dreams with money he earned from his new job. But instead of using it for parties or showing off, he had turned it into a floating workshop. Scientists, inventors, and dreamers from around the world came to the Yacht to work together on projects that could help humanity. The same deck where Elon had been humiliated was now filled with people collaborating on solutions to big problems. "It seems right somehow," Maxwell had said when he told Elon about buying the yacht. "The place where I tried to destroy dreams is now where people come to build them." Even the guests from that terrible weekend had changed. Victoria had completely reformed how her fashion companies operated. Instead of using factories that treated workers badly, she had partnered with Hidden Potential to create jobs that paid well and provided good working conditions. The man with grey hair had started a program at his bank that gave loans to people like Rosa, Marcus, and Elena. Talented individuals who couldn't get traditional business loans because they didn't have college degrees or wealthy connections. One by one, the guests had realized that the weekend had changed them too. They had seen what real leadership looked like when Elon stayed calm during the storm and worked to help everyone. They had learned that true success meant lifting other people up, not putting them down. Elon's phone buzzed with a text message. It was from Maxwell. "New discovery in Seattle. Found a homeless veteran who has designed an amazing system for helping other homeless people find jobs and housing. Can we bring him to Austin next week?" Elon smiled and texted back, "Absolutely, set up a meeting." This was exactly what Hidden Potential was supposed to do. Find people who had been forgotten or overlooked and give them the resources to make their ideas reality. A knock on his office door interrupted his thoughts. His assistant came in with a large envelope. "This came for you today," she said. "It's from a school in Ohio." Elon opened the envelope and found dozens of letters from elementary school students. They had been learning about Hidden Potential in their class and wanted to share their own ideas for helping people. One letter was from a girl named Sarah, who had an idea for helping kids who were too shy to ask questions in class. Another was from a boy named Marcus, the same name as his friend from the yacht, who wanted to build a robot that could help elderly people with their daily tasks. Each letter was full of hope and creativity. These children believed they could change the world, just like Rosa, Marcus, Elena, and Maxwell had believed. Elon picked up his phone and called Maxwell. "I just got some letters from kids in Ohio. I think we need to start a program for young inventors." "That's a great idea," Maxwell replied. "I've been getting emails from teachers all over the country asking if we work with students." "Let's do it," Elon said. Rosa could teach them about nutrition and cooking. Marcus could show them engineering. Elena could help them with technology. And you could help them learn how to organize their ideas. As Elon hung up the phone, he thought about how different his life was now compared to 6 months ago. Before the yacht weekend, he had been successful but lonely. He had built amazing companies, but he had started to lose touch with the people. His work was supposed to help. The cruel weekend that was supposed to destroy him had actually saved him. It had reminded him that the most important thing wasn't being famous or rich or respected. The most important thing was connecting with good people and helping them succeed. He looked at the photos on his wall again. Rosa's mother, healthy and smiling after her cancer treatment. Marcus's son, proudly wearing his engineering school t-shirt. Elena's sister, playing outside in clean air. Maxwell's father, who had called to say he was proud of his son for the first time in years, and hundreds of other faces. People who had been given chances they never thought they would get. Families who were healthier and happier because someone believed in their potential. Elon's computer chimed with a video call. It was the weekly meeting of the Hidden Potential leadership team. Rosa appeared on screen from a kitchen in Brazil where she was training new chefs. Marcus connected from a factory in Germany where he was installing new transportation systems. Elena joined from a school in Kenya where she was setting up internet connections. And Maxwell was calling from the Crystal Dreams, which was currently anchored off the coast of California. Behind him, Elon could see a group of inventors working together on what looked like a new kind of solar panel. "Good morning, everyone," Elon said to his team. What amazing things are we going to accomplish this week? As they talked about their projects and shared stories about the people they were helping, Elon felt more fulfilled than he ever had building rockets or cars. Those things were still important, but this was different. This was about human potential and the magic that happened when good people supported each other. The weekend that was supposed to be his worst experience had become the foundation for his most meaningful work. And the best part was, they were just getting started. 1 year after the yacht incident, Elon was in his office preparing for the annual Hidden Potential celebration. Companies and families from around the world were sending videos to thank them for the changes they had made. It was going to be an amazing event. But as he was organizing papers for the celebration, Elon found something that made him stop everything he was doing. Hidden in a stack of old mail was a letter that had been delivered to his office exactly 1 year and 1 day ago, the day after he returned from the yacht. The letter was from Rosa, and it was dated 3 weeks before the yacht trip. With shaking hands, Elon opened the letter and began to read. Dear Mr. Musk, my name is Rosa Martinez. I am writing to ask for your help. My mother is very sick with cancer, and we cannot afford the treatment she needs. I have heard that your foundation sometimes helps families like ours. I know you must get thousands of letters like this, and I don't expect you to read this or respond. But I had to try. My mother is the kindest person in the world, and she doesn't deserve to suffer because we don't have enough money. If there is any way you could help us, I would be grateful forever. I will work as hard as I can to pay back any money you lend us. Thank you for reading this. Sincerely, Rosa Martinez. Elon stared at the letter in confusion. Rosa had written to him 3 weeks before the yacht trip, asking for help. But on the yacht, she had told everyone that his foundation had already paid for her mother's treatment. He looked at the letter again and noticed something strange. There was a small note attached to it in handwriting he didn't recognize. Mr. Musk, I took care of this request using the Foundation Emergency Fund. Rosa's mother received her treatment, and Rosa was given a job on the yacht, as requested. So the note was signed with just the letter S. Elon's heart started beating faster. Something was very wrong here. He called his assistant immediately. Sarah, he said when she answered, I need you to come to my office right away and bring the files from the Foundation Emergency Fund from last year. His assistant, Sarah, arrived within minutes carrying a thick folder. She looked nervous, like she knew this conversation was coming. Sir, she said quietly, there's something I need to tell you. I think I'm starting to figure it out, Elon said, holding up Rosa's letter. You were the one who helped Rosa, weren't you? Sarah nodded, her eyes filling with tears. Yes, but that's not all I did. Elon felt like the world was tilting around him. What do you mean? Sarah took a deep breath. Mr. Musk, I need to tell you the truth about that yacht weekend. The whole thing was my idea. What? Elon could barely get the word out. I organized it, Sarah said, tears now streaming down her face. I hired actors to play most of the guests. I arranged for Rosa, Marcus, and Elena to be working on the yacht. I even hired Maxwell to pretend to be a failed billionaire who hated you. Elon stared at her, unable to speak. Maxwell isn't really Maxwell Steinberg, Sarah continued. He's Michael Sterling, an out-of-work actor who needed money to support his family. I paid him to play the role of someone who wanted to humiliate you. But why? Elon managed to ask. Sarah sat down heavily in the chair across from his desk. Because I was worried about you. You were becoming a different person, and I didn't know how to help you. What do you mean? 6 months before the yacht trip, you started changing, Sarah explained. You stopped talking to your employees like they were real people. You began treating everyone like they were just there to serve you. You were becoming mean and cold. Elon thought back to that time period. It was true that he had been under a lot of stress. His companies were growing so fast that he barely had time to sleep. Maybe he had been treating people badly without realizing it. I tried to talk to you about it, Sarah continued, but you wouldn't listen. You were surrounded by people who only told you what you wanted to hear. I was afraid you were going to become the kind of person you used to fight against. So you created an elaborate plan to teach me a lesson? Elon asked, his voice barely above a whisper. I wanted you to remember what it felt like to be treated badly, Sarah admitted. I wanted you to meet people like Rosa, Marcus, and Elena, who would remind you why your work matters. I hoped that if you experienced cruelty yourself, you would remember to be kind to others. Elon felt dizzy. The entire weekend had been fake. The humiliation, the storm, even Maxwell's breakdown. It was all planned. The storm was real, Sarah said quickly as if reading his thoughts. That wasn't part of the plan. But everything else, I'm so sorry. How many people knew? Elon asked. Just me and the actors I hired, Sarah said. Rosa, Marcus, and Elena didn't know. Their stories were completely real. I found them because their families really had been helped by your foundation, and I thought meeting them would remind you of the good you've done. Elon was quiet for a long time, trying to process everything. The worst weekend of his life had been an elaborate intervention organized by his own assistant. The other guests who apologized. Afterward, he said slowly. Were they actors too? Some of them, Sarah nodded. But a few were real wealthy people who had heard rumors about the event and wanted to come see what would happen. When they saw how the actors were treating you, they joined in because they thought it was expected. And Michael. He really broke down and cried. That was real, Sarah said. By the end of the weekend, he felt terrible about what we were doing to you. He's actually a very kind person who hated having to be cruel, even if it was just acting. Elon stood up and walked to his window, looking out at the city below. Everything he thought he knew about that weekend was wrong, but somehow that made it even more meaningful. You risked everything to save me from becoming someone I would have hated, he said finally. I couldn't let you turn into one of those bosses who treats people like objects, Sarah said. You were too important. Too many people depended on you. Staying good. Elon turned around to face her. Are you going to quit now? Are you afraid I'll fire you? Sarah looked up at him with red, teary eyes. I don't know. I know I betrayed your trust. I know I lied to you for months. I wouldn't blame you if you never wanted to see me again. Elon walked over to where Sarah was sitting, and to her complete surprise, he hugged her. Thank you, he said, quietly. Thank you for caring enough about me to risk everything to save me from myself. Sarah started crying harder. Really? Really, Elon said. You saw that I was becoming someone terrible, and you found a way to show me the truth. You reminded me what it felt like to be vulnerable and scared. You introduced me to people who showed me why my work matters. He sat back down at his desk. Without that weekend, I never would have started Hidden Potential. I never would have helped Rosa, Marcus, Elena, and Michael become the amazing people they are today. I would have just kept building companies and making money while forgetting about the people those companies were supposed to help. So you're not angry? Sarah asked. I should be, Elon said with a small smile, but I'm not. You didn't just save me from becoming a bad person. You helped me become the best version of myself. Sarah wiped her eyes. What happens now? Now, Elon said, I want you to help me plan something special for tonight's celebration. I want to tell everyone the truth about that weekend. I want them to know that sometimes the people who love us most are willing to risk everything to help us grow. As Sarah left his office to prepare for the evening, Elon sat alone thinking about the incredible journey that had brought him here. The yacht weekend hadn't been about cruelty or revenge or even failure. It had been about love. Love from an assistant who cared too much to watch him destroy himself. Love from strangers who shared their stories to remind him of his purpose. Love from an actor who felt so bad about hurting him that he broke character to show his real feelings. And now, a year later, That love had grown into something that was changing the world. Hidden potential was helping thousands of people discover their talents and achieve their dreams. The fake humiliation had become real hope for countless families. Tonight, at the celebration, Elon would tell everyone the truth. He would thank Sarah for having the courage to save him from himself. He would honor Rosa, Marcus, and Elena for their kindness and brilliance. He would celebrate Michael for his transformation from struggling actor to successful businessman, and he would remind everyone that the greatest discoveries in life often come disguised as our worst experiences. Sometimes the people who seem to hurt us are actually the ones who love us most. And sometimes the most elaborate lie can lead to the most honest truth. The yacht weekend had taught Elon that success wasn't about being powerful or feared or respected. It was about staying connected to your humanity and using your gifts to lift up the people around you. As he prepared for the celebration, Elon smiled. The story that began with humiliation was ending with gratitude. And the best part was, just like he had said a year ago, they were still just getting started. What an incredible journey this has been. From humiliation to hope, from cruelty to kindness, Elon's story shows us that sometimes our worst moments can become our greatest blessings. The yacht weekend that was meant to break him down actually built up thousands of people around the world. This story reminds us that everyone has hidden potential waiting to be discovered. Just like Rosa, Marcus, and Elena, there are brilliant people everywhere who just need someone to believe in them. We'd love to know. Where are you listening from today? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if this story touched your heart and reminded you about the power of kindness and second chances, please hit that like button and subscribe to our channel. By subscribing, you're helping us spread more stories of hope and inspiration to people who need them most. Together, we can share messages that lift people up instead of tear them down. There's another amazing story waiting for you right now. Just click on the video appearing on your screen. Until next time, remember, your worst day might just be the beginning of your best chapter. Keep believing in hidden potential, starting with your own.